was. Did you even watch it?
No.
I did a great job.
I can switch with you.
Megan trusts you, I trust you.
No idea.
Here, no, I got you. No, when he moved, I
can
moved
move
it.
over one.
No, it's fine. No, because I go like
You gonna
this
run
and
that?
you're not in it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I did a great job last time.
Did you?
Well, I'm telling
We're
myself I
1
did
minute
a great job.
For session 3 of the general topics room, and I'm going to continue to ignore the bios that the speakers submitted and do my own thing. How I would vouch for Amy and Matt, going alphabetical, is I've known them a long time. How I've known them a long time is because I've been one of the main people in charge of True Team for a long time. So if I've known them a long time, it means they've been successful in True Team for a long time in the state meet. Be it A, double A, I'm not putting in triple A yet.
Not yet.
But they're both fantastic. Pine Island is a fantastic program, very successful program. However, I don't know what they call them these days. A pro tip, if you want something done, if you want a response, contact him.
That actually started because originally Matt wasn't coaching in or teaching in Pine Island. He taught in Rochester, and so all the communication came directly through me. So
There we go. Very humbled to be here. Thank you for having us, Mark. We're just going to start it off and let this one fly. We're a little bit nervous because we have never
Very
done
nervous.
this before. A. B, we have all our peers from Section 1A here. So they're going to be heckling us and probably throwing
we
stuff.
thought we should have thrown out prizes. Like here's a shirt for you and a shirt for you.
So at the end, we do have a possibility of a black tie backpack.
I bet we know none of you have those
Give
today.
away.
Those black MF athletic
Does it have
tie
MF on it?
So,
Yeah.
yep. That's our door prize, I guess. Okay, so let's kick it off. Welcome. Yeah, hit the.
I'll hit this. Yes.
Good afternoon, Panthers. Track and field is only 2 weeks away.
Here's how we're getting ready at our house.
Sweats off. Fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, we got it at high speed now. I'd like to point out I got the faster start, but he beat me in the end.
But the winner was Northrop. It went by fast, but it's fast.
Check out the vintage uniforms.
We don't want copyright, so we just said Panther.
They're just such dorks.
Last off, 4x400 relay. Pine Island up.
Thanks for watching. Now let's get after it. PAC meeting is Sunday, March 3rd at 6:30 p.m.
Watch the Facebook groups for details. Follow us on Twitter.
Now we must ask you a question. We're ready.
Are you?
So,
Anyways.
basically, our program is based on making ourselves look done. Right? I mean,
Well-
you got to bring humor into it, and so that's just kind of one example of when we were trying to get ready for our season and trying to get the kids excited about it. There's still a lot of snow on the ground, and it was only 2 weeks away, and
Yeah.
probably remember
It
that.
kind of shows a little bit how we involve our kids in there too. We have 3. One was filming and the other 2 were just around there anyways. But yeah, you gotta be willing to laugh at yourself a little bit. I'm a middle school teacher, so that's definitely a bonus there, and to kind of make yourself look a little stupid at times. And even if the kids don't like it, the parents thought it was hilarious, so.
So I guess we'd just like to start by again saying thank you so much for taking the time to come and listen to us about our program, I guess. I'd like to start by, first of all, just getting a raise of hands to see how many people are 5-year or under coaches. So brand new coaches just ready to get at, wow,
That's a lot of you.
that's great. 5 to 10. Good. Okay, 10 to 20. Awesome. Anybody like over that 25 mark? Whoa, is that Bruce? Oh, how many years has it been, Bruce? 45. Let's give it up for Bruce. And then, so I guess we're going here.
Are you?
Has anybody? Oh, absolutely.
Really? Oh gosh.
Has anybody ever heard? I highly recommend if you haven't heard of a motivational speaker by the name of Matt Foley.
Does anybody know Matt Foley?
Did you just put your hands up because I gotta make sure I'm not gonna go.
How about,
so a few
how about
people do.
SNL? Okay.
All right, good. My name is Matt Northrop. I am a gym teacher, and I live in a van down by the river. So we'd like to start this meeting off. She didn't want me to do this, but I'm like, we gotta do it. We're gonna start this meeting off by letting me give you a little bit of a scenario about what my life is all about. Okay?
Keep going.
Just keep going with it.
Just keep going.
All right, so a lot of you people are out there, you're young, you're gonna get the world by the tail and wrap it around, pull it down, put it in your pocket. But I'm here to tell you that if you don't have positive team culture in your program, your coaches and your athletes are not gonna amount to jack squat. You're gonna eat a steady diet of government-infested cheese and living in a van down by the river. But Amy and I are here to help. We're here to get you through the process and help you build that positive team culture. We're gonna be buddies, we're gonna be pals, we're gonna wrestle. Okay.
I didn't know that part was coming.
What?
We are married, by the way. So.
Okay, yeah. So I wouldn't recommend doing that with your assistant coach. I knew it was after lunch and people are gonna be a little sluggish, so we gotta get fired up and ready to go.
If you don't know who Matt Foley is,
Now you need to Google it.
okay, you
and
got
watch
it. SNL character, Chris
I did have my
Farley.
blazer.
Okay, that's where you'll have to look at later. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's get into the program.
Let's
You
keep
guys are
going.
waiting now and ready to go.
Or
Fire it up. Give me 2 claps. Fire up.
Okay,
All right. We're ready.
Okay, so coaching, teaching wise, I have taught in Pine Island since '98. I started as a primary teacher. I now teach 6th grade. For those of you who are teachers and in the school system, 6th grade is the best recruiting ground for kids. So they see what I do every day. They ask me about my meets. I show them, hey, oh my gosh, look at this pole vault. Look at my kid high jump. This is so great. So I kind of just share my life with them that way. And that really helps to grow our program in numbers. Our program on the boys' side was always really strong in numbers with Matt. But now that he's begun teaching in Pine Island, taught in Rochester for 22 years, now teaching high school Phi Ed in Pine Island, now they see him every day and he can talk to those kids that he wouldn't ordinarily see or who might not consider track and field. So that's
I kind of thought, coming
stuff.
to Pine Island, I've only been there 5 years now, teaching wise. I've been coaching there for 25-ish,
Yeah.
26. I thought there would be like a dive on the enrollment and the participation because they get sick of me. They see me in gym class, see me all day, but our numbers have risen, I guess.
So
And it's basically because you can connect, like she said, with those kids who are roaming the halls, who are not in anything, and bring them in and make them believe that they could be great. Okay, so that's kind of the basis of why I think our numbers have grown. So
we'll get into some specifics too. But like we said, we've been coaching in Pine Island for a very long time. We've coached a lot of other sports. We have 3 kids. Our oldest is a freshman at the U of M now, and we've got a junior and a sophomore. And thinking about our kids growing up in track and field, they're just track rats. They just have been everywhere with us all the time. They play around in the shed, whatever, and we're also trying to provide that opportunity for our younger coaches now. We're like, bring your kids to practice. That's fine. The older kids, they just glom onto the younger kids too, or they're like, here, let me push the baby around the track. And you know, we would even bring, you guys probably remember coming to meets and seeing our little pup tent and our 3 kids shoved in there with snacks and blankets and books and stuff like that, you know. So our family has really grown up through track and field too. And it's very humbling, like Matt said, for us to speak in front of our peers. We just hope, obviously we don't have magic answers for things, but we just really hope you guys can at least find one practical thing you can implement within your program, or you can get confirmation that what you're doing is already, you know, a good thing for your own culture.
So this is kind of where we started when we took over. Notice the great jean shorts. Those were back in style. Jorts. And she had them too, coaches. Yeah. So we had,
awesome.
This 18, 22. And that's 7.
Yeah, we had 22 kids, 7 through 12.
7 through 12, our first year. And it was great. We didn't have the greatest facilities, but we knew it was something special in Pine Island, coming in after the great Mill Schrader, who, if you're around in the 80s, he built an amazing program. We used to have a beautiful complex and one of the best in the kind of area. And I knew those are big shoes to fill, but I was excited about the opportunity. And
I was in the boys program until 2019. So our boys and girls programs ran pretty separately. For the most part, we didn't share coaches. We didn't share. I got to work because I coach cross country. I got to work a little bit with the distance and mid-distance runners, but not a whole lot. And then in 2019, I took over the girls program. And so now we have really been able to utilize all of our coaches, have all our special area coaches, and be able to grow the program in that way too. But this is kind of in the midst of that. In 2015, this is the track that we had been practicing on since 1998. If you've been around a long time, you probably had athletes run on this track.
Cannon Falls, you had 2 girls fall down on this part of the stretch in the 100-meter dash. You can see, I mean, we came to practice one day and they put a fence. I don't know if you can see that fence on the inside of lane 1. That was great because they had extra flood money. We're going to put a fence so they stay off the football field. And
all of our athletes always at other tracks ran on the outside of lane 1 because they were so used to practicing at this one. Yeah. Anyways, this was our last day that we practiced on this track, and then in 2016, thanks to a referendum, we got a new track. And if you've been there, it's a beautiful facility. It lacks in parking, but it's a great facility. And so we feel so fortunate. We have administrators that know track and field and that value track and field. The other thing I want to point out about our administrators, if any of you are administrators in here, is that we have in our extracurricular handbook, we have a 15-to-1 athlete ratio for track and field. And so the minute we go over into that extra 15, we get another paid coach. So when we come to our area track meets, people are like, Pine Island's got a lot of coaches. And we're very fortunate in that. Some of those coaches that come with us, they're volunteer coaches. They're former athletes, they're parents, they're things like that. And you want to help? Let's go. More significant adults we can have in those kids' lives, the better.
That's, I guess, 2021. And this is not 7 through 12 now. This is just varsity
boys.
This is 9-12. And then last year was our biggest number we had.
So total in 2022, we had about 160 athletes, 7 through 12 boys and girls. And so it's a lot of kids. And we also had a lot of adults around helping to manage that. So our junior high program runs kind of separately from us now because there's just so many of them. And junior high kids count as like 1.5 kids sometimes, so it can be a little chaotic. Anyway, so the first, we're going to talk about tradition and intention. And tradition, these are the things that, the areas that we want to focus on for tradition and things that we do in Pine Island. And it's captain leadership, alumni, parent-family involvement, special events, and of course, True Team.
So captains, as far as like captains, not everybody in our program, wants to lead. That's something that you have to want. They don't feel comfortable. They don't, they just want to be part of it, but they don't want to be a vocal voice, outspoken voice in it. So we make our captains apply, usually the season before. We announce at the banquet, and then say if you'd like to apply to be a captain, we have a form that will be, is that on there?
Yeah, there's some resources I linked at the end of the presentation, so there's a blank captain application. If that's something you're interested in, feel free to use that. But it kind of helps weed out those kids that either A, aren't organized enough to get an application in on time, or B, just really don't want to lead. And we ask them questions like, what's a scenario in track and field where you've come upon something challenging? How did you solve it? Who's your role model? What characteristics do you have that would make you a good leader? Why should your peers listen to you? And it's valuable information for us to know. And we do get applications that we reject is a strong word, but I had some kids who applied as juniors, and I met with them and I said, I know that you have some leadership, but here are some things that I've seen. I've seen some negative things here. I'm gonna watch you for the first couple weeks of practice, and if you show me you can be a positive leader, I will award you that position, for that leadership position. Otherwise, it means you got some things to work on. Doesn't mean you can't be a good leader. It just means you've got some a ways to go on that yet.
So we wanna make sure that also we try to have a variety of captains, like maybe one in the field event jumps, maybe a throws captain. And we encourage anybody to apply, but we don't necessarily, just because you apply, you become a captain. You have to show us. I think for our program, our captains that we have are kind of the glue that keeps everything together, because we hold them very accountable and we let them know right away. I do that I'm probably gonna be the most demanding person they've ever had in their life other than their parents. And I have really high expectations of how you conduct yourself at meets, how you respect one another from a senior to a 7th grader. And that helps, I think, build that culture of everybody's part of it. We have them, I think that's coming up, ride the bus.
Yeah.
We shuttle out to the track, so the captains have to ride the bus and show the expectations of when you're riding out on the bus, how you act, when you're warming up, how you take that time and really lock in to make sure we don't have injuries. We demand a lot out of them, but to a guy, they have risen to the challenge and just become phenomenal leaders. And they're in charge of Good Spirit Awards at the end.
That's like most likely twos, and we do those on the very last day of practice.
Yeah,
So it's
with
not
everybody.
something that the parents see. It's not anything, a part of that or whatever.
I think, probably some of the most rewarding times as coaches are when you see your athlete encouraging a different team or standing on a different athlete's blocks for them when they don't have a teammate around. And it's nothing for us to not see our kids go over and say, hey, we got you, we can help out, because that's what we value. That's probably the most important part of our captains and their jobs.
Yeah, and I do, on the girls' side, I do junior captains. So I'll have 2 captains who are junior girls and the others that are seniors, so that they have some continuity and they have some practice in leadership before I actually put that in that sometimes, especially for girls, stressful leadership role. I also do this, I don't know if you did this or not, but each of my captains leads a separate group of kids for the first couple of weeks in warm-ups, in case they need to teach them things or model things, or if they have questions. Okay, alumni.
So I'll go on. So with tradition, as far as like alumni, we make it a huge deal, and I encourage you in your programs, if you don't already, to make a huge deal when someone who's graduated comes back, to just check out what's the team going to look like this year. How many people do they have out? Because I think the kids who are currently in the program see how much we value them and love up on them and say this, let's give it up for whoever, and the kids are like, who's whoever, and like, this was one of our, you know,
4 years ago,
best-
he set 12 PRs in one season,
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
and
just-
just, and hey, he's number 23 to come back this year, so let's give it up for him. And they usually stick around and watch, you know, the warm up or even
they'll do
sometimes
part of the practice and then they'll be like, oh, no, I don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah, we haven't any pulled muscles or anything, but there's been some almost puking.
Yeah.
So they think they still got it, and they hop right in there, and they do 1/400 or whatever, and then they're like, okay,
Yeah, I know.
I'll take this one. But I think it's important to just recognize those people, because that builds that tradition of, hey, I'm gonna come back when I'm a senior and, you know, have coach introduce me to the kids, because a lot of those kids grew up with them in the program and then wonder how they're doing after. I mean, they go over and give them hugs, and it's just a fun thing to be a part of and to watch, so.
And to provide space for that, because I know that you know, for our kids, once, like our son, once he had graduated, track and field is the only sport he wants to come back to. You know, he played other sports, but the coaches haven't really made it, you know, a thing to be like, hey, come back. When you're in town, come back. We want to see you. Where that's what we want. We want to maintain that connection even beyond that time. And I was talking last night to somebody too, just backing up a little bit to my teaching experience, is that I feel so fortunate to be a 6th grade teacher, because I get to be in those kids' lives from the time they're 12 until the time they graduate from high school. So I may have been, other than their parents, the most consistent adult relationship they've had. And I think that that's so powerful for them to be able to recognize that one adult in the building or on the track that they can come to if they need something. Okay, alumni t-shirts. We started this a couple years ago where I just printed out a huge batch of alumni t-shirts, and that's one of the gifts that the seniors get at the end of the season. It just says PITF alumni. And so they start wearing it right away because it identifies them. All right, we did it, we made it, we were part of this track and field team.
We have alumni meets every 5 years. We
We've
kind of
had
kicked
one.
off. Well, we
had
kicked
one
off the
alumni.
first one with the new track, and then COVID hit, and then we're gonna ramp it back up this year. So
But now we realize we have too much to do, so we're giving it up to an alumni to actually organize it.
yeah,
So.
and then we have booster club members that are former athletes that don't even have kids in
Yep.
the program, but they want to be a part of it. They come back and help coach. They come and help run meets.
Yep.
And if you've been to our meets, I think our workers do an amazing job, and they're knowledgeable. And if they're not knowledgeable, we have people that'll help them do stuff to be part of what we're trying to do in Pine Island for track and field.
It's also extremely rewarding to have your former athletes come back and coach with you. And that's happened to me now in cross country, basketball, and track and field, that you can transition that relationship to more of an adult relationship as well. And it is really fun because you hear your words coming out of their mouths, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh. Or like Mitchell will say, you weren't this soft on us.
Exactly. They think they had it. It's like almost it's the exact same workouts,
It's-
but they think it was so much harder. And he'll come up and be, hey, coach, you need one of these? I'm like, yeah. Oh, good.
What is
What
it?
is it? It's a tough pill.
It's a tough pill.
Yeah, 'cause
Matt gives a tough pill to
I give
people.
every now and then, and I don't recommend doing that, but like if they're struggling, but I'll be like, hey, take this, it'll be all right. And they'll be like, what? It's a tough pill, just take it. And so, so they bring, like she said, they bring that right back on you. Like if I am being soft on the workout or whatever, they'll be like, take this, coach. So anyways, it's just it's a fun way for people to be involved who have been in the program to continue to be involved, and boom, parent and family.
Yeah, and we interact with our families and our parents a lot. There are always going to be conflicts. There are always going to be questions about why isn't my kid in this relay? How come you chose to do this instead? But we find that by really involving them and openly communicating, we tell the kids, we tell the parents, we are very transparent. If you want to know something, there's a reason. We have a reason for it. And so come and ask us, come and talk to us. We're happy to talk to you about that. But we involve them right away. We have a booster club. We didn't always have a booster club, but now we do. And granted, it's about 10 people who are doing most of the work. But what we say at our PAC meeting, our preseason meeting, is we say, all of you, by having a track and field athlete, you are automatically members of the booster club. And so that night, we have them sign up for different tasks and things that we want them to do, and that guarantees family participation within the program. they are also our meet and event workers. They've watched their kids for 6 years in certain events, and by the time they've watched their kids for 6 years, they're like, I know how to do this one. If you've ever been to one of our meets, you know John White runs the pole vault, and so he's there for us. I guarantee he'll come back and run the pole vault for us this year, even though Jared's in college. So it's really helpful to have knowledgeable people. We also say to parents too, back up to our meet workers, we're like, you don't have any knowledge of track and field, we'll teach you. We'll train you, or guess what, your hurdle crew. You can go put the hurdles on the track with our junior high kids. And coaches too. Most of the time if we have parents who want to coach, and yes, we do vet them. We do say, oh yes, we'd love to have you coach, or sometimes we're like, oh, okay, well we need somebody who's gonna be here this day, and this day. Kind of knowing in the back of our heads that that parent can't commit to that, because yes, there are overzealous parents who want to teach different techniques than you want them to teach, and so you have to be careful about that as well. But at the junior high level especially, you want a lot of adults who can help out with your program. You want somebody who can help in the hurdles if they've had experience in the hurdles. But they do have to go through a background check. All of our volunteer coaches do. They do have to go through concussion training. So they do all of that as well, so that they're on board and invested. Okay, special events. We talked a little about the alumni meet.
We don't like to do. I know fundraisers are a necessary evil, but we don't do them in our program, because I think in all the other sports they get. So
they have to go door to door.
They
have to send emails. They have to send
cards,
leaders. Give us.
We don't do that, so we don't have a huge budget, but we do a pasta feed for our whole family and community. Any like former athletes again come back and things like that, and that is our one shebang, and it seems to do well enough.
It made us like $5,000 last year, and it's an Olive Garden catered dinner. You buy tickets. I mean, everybody buys tickets. We buy our tickets. There's a silent auction. But the biggest point of this is not even fundraising. The biggest point of this is track and field community come together. Come and see what we do. Come and see what we're all about. Welcome into the track and field community. So we have that set for this year already at the end of April. And so we're excited about that.
So our track guys, they're weird. The birds. They've had a guy who just turned 30 this year started this little clapping tradition, and they all get in the middle and they yell at each other.
They scream at each other.
They do their little thing, and the funny thing is that they're just quirky, but they continue to do it. And
it gets a
I mean,
teamwork.
they would clap every step I take when I was coming from Rochester, and every step and it was just a big thing that our kids
totally happened organically. Like we did not have anything to do with that. Like let's have a team huddle, and they still do it, and the girls just are kind of like, oh my gosh, boys, But
the girls have
started our own little thing as well. We start our practices until it's warmer outside in the elementary school gym. So our track is off-site at the K4. And so at the beginning of practice, we pull that curtain down, girls on one side, guys on another, just so it can focus a little bit more.
And then once we do our workouts, that's where we said we've kind of started to join our programs.
That's where we come together.
Get everybody involved. We'll take all the girls doing the mid-distance and come over with us. We're doing that, and we divide and conquer with our assistants and do the workout, so they have kind of a leader for the distance, for the mid-distance, for the sprinters. But that's been very empowering, I think, for the girls team to see. At first, when we're doing a workout like 12 400s with graduated arrest, there were a lot that did not feel they could do it, right? And then again, you make them believe that yes, you absolutely could do this. It's mind over matter. You got this. You're strong. You can do it. And then now it's just fun watching them. They're all ready, and my boys are like, oh, gosh, here we go. But empowering them to know that they can do it. They can do so much more than they think they can do. And then you're constantly reiterating that. I know you got more in you. I know you got more in you. You can do this. You're going to make it through the workout, and giving them those pats to get them through and get them to believe.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Yep, shin treatment for boys. We have a tradition. We go down and stand in the river. It's
really kind of a dumb thing.
They just stand in the river in the ice cold when it's first thawed and just
and it's awful.
But they love it.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a giant special event. It can just be something that you always do that's part of your program. We do the citywide garage sales in Pine Island are the last weekend in April. We do garage sale run. We put them in groups and we're like, you have a maximum of $10 to spend. You have to find something that's childhood nostalgia, something that's superhero, the largest item, the weirdest item, whatever. And then they come together and then the coaches vote on, you know, what the weirdest thing. We had kids come back in full-on Captain America costumes. And it was just, it's hilarious, honestly. And then they get these stupid little trophies. But they look forward to that and going out, and they actually are running all over town, like literally running to find that stuff. And then we have the girls team has a pizza party, and that's where our goal setting starts, is at that pizza party where we come together. We've got pizza, we've got salad, we've got, you know, desserts, we've got drinks, everything. So it's the start of that team bonding.
Yep. Okay.
And then the flag.
Oh, flag.
That's
It's
our
been here
tradition
since
too.
'93, and I don't know.
That flag was made by an athlete's parent, and that athlete graduated in 1993. That flag comes to every meet with us. That flag goes on every last lap around the track.
That
They
flag's been
carry
stolen
it.
by.
Yeah, Triton stole it from us one year.
I gotta mention any names. So yeah, it's again tradition, but it's just things that were there before we even got there that were just kind of.
That we've carried through.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. What time do we have to wrap up for the record? 45?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
gosh, we got half an
got
hour.
plenty of time.
Keep going.
Are you stretch break? We gotta stand up and stretch. We got okay. All right. We'll just keep going. Here we go.
True team.
True Team, it's a big event. Is anybody not familiar with True Team in here? I know some of the new coaches. Okay, True Team is huge. And all you do is you preach that it's huge, and the kids buy into, oh my gosh, this is huge. And it becomes part of your ingrained culture. So we have always said that True Team is paramount in our season of our whole program's strength. What it does is are you explaining? So what it does basically is lets your team solidify how deep you are, the number of athletes you have. Smaller classes is 2 or 3 if it's a bigger class. Anyways, I think the most important thing that you can do to be successful in that is to get everyone buying in, that everyone's job is important, and at any time, any of you could be called upon. So we have all the kids still come even though they may not be competing, and we probably know they're not competing, but we don't let them know that they're not competing. It's kind of.
Well, we're like, you never know what's going to happen. Be ready. You know, and I
Right.
tell this story about the only 200 I ever ran in high school was at the True Team meet. You know, I'd never run a 200 in my life. And I had to, somebody sprained a ankle and I had to go run a 200. So you be ready all the time. So everybody has their uniform. You know, you have to cut your roster,
Yep.
which not everybody has to cut a roster, but we have to cut a roster. So there are kids who don't get a number. And it's only a few that
Yep.
come with that don't get a number. But we try to either tell them in advance, or if we put somebody on the roster that we know is not going to compete, we'll give 2 kids the same number. And they don't compare their numbers, you know, on the hand. So anyways, our school is like, are you really taking all 75 kids with you? And we're like, yes. Well, their teachers aren't going to like it. And we're like, they're part of the team. They have to come with us. Yes, we know we get out early. They're responsible kids. So yes, they need to come with us. And we preach that everybody on the team, your status is all the same, but your role is different. Your role might be catching somebody's step on the longer triple jump. Your role might be cheering your heart out at the kid who really needs to power throw just a great mark. So your role is different, and we value each of their roles, and we explain and teach them what their role is going to be during that time.
And this is another thing where it takes a little while for everyone to buy in, right? So we have, you know, at the end of a meet, a lot of times they'll make a circle, and that was organic. We didn't start that; they just started doing it, and clapping one time for each place that's read off. In 6th place, 432 points, whatever, and then everyone claps, and then they kind of feel the build up. They started pounding on the AstroTurf, But the thing that is everyone's part of that picture. We had, at times people who came from different programs, the football program in particular, that didn't have that positive culture that were like, well, I didn't even throw, why should I be in the picture? Because you're part of us. You're part of what we're building. So yes, your job is important. If you're on the football team and you're on special teams, are you not important? No. So you are just as important.
If you didn't get subbed in, but your team won the section, would you be in that team picture? Yeah. This is the same thing.
So this is why it's important for you to get in there. And they kind of started to get it, and they would be closer, and then they would be in the pictures. So it's just something that it's you don't even think about until you see it, and we're like, well, why are they always kind of on the outside of the huddle?
But that requires
outside of the
education for those kids too. And because they just don't know. They come from a place of not knowing. So we're like, here's what we're all about. Let us help you. Let us invite you in to this inner circle kind of thing. And mostly with True Team, we're like, this is a big deal. This is the pinnacle of our season. And we have some parents who'll be like, oh, well, my kid that's not going to be there at True Team. They've got a soccer tournament. And we're like, no, they have to be here at True Team. Oh, but they're not competing. No, this is a big deal. They have to be there. If they had a basketball game or a football game, would you, if you knew they weren't going to play, if you knew they were going to sit on the end of the bench, would you still require them to go to the game? Yes, you would. So this is no different than that. And so we try to enforce that as well. Do you want me to play this or not? The one shot.
It's just you can do it.
I'll just play it for a second.
Aston Vanderbilt. In 7th place with a score of 373.5, Albert Lee. In 6th place with a score of 397.5 is Winona. In 5th place with a score of 438.
Let's go! Okay, so there.
So even the kid on the outside who didn't compete is like, yeah, piling in there too. Yeah. And they're so excited, and then they'll grab the flag and they will run around the flag and they'll run around the track. And so, it requires some educating. Our girls are now getting into that as well, and creeping into that more competitive arena. We got second last year in our section. And so it's pretty powerful for them too. I remember even the first year I started coaching where we got second in a meet, or we won a meet, and one of the girls was like, oh, well, that's different. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah, we never won before. And I was like, well, get ready, because it's coming.
And then on top of that too, like if you do go to True Team and you place and get a ribbon, I would highly recommend ordering it or contacting Mark, because that's such an important thing too.
Because you get a limited number of ribbons.
Yeah, we don't give them out till the end of the season anyways, and we'll talk a little bit about that with our awards packets at the end. But it's super important that everyone sees that, yes, I got that ribbon. I know I didn't do anything, but
you didn't run, you didn't throw, you didn't jump. Here's your team ribbon.
Yeah.
So we pay for that, and we order those extra ribbons for them. Oops. Come on. Okay. Everybody good? Any questions?
Yeah, we're kind of racing through here.
We're doing a lot of talking. Okay, so intention is basically like, what are you going to do on purpose? What do you intend to do? How are you going to teach that to the kids? And it literally, like, we have learned so much from being parents and from being coaches that you think kids just automatically know things, but they don't. It's even like if you're a parent and you think the things you had to actually teach your kids to do not stick your finger up your brother's nose, things like that. It's like you have to teach them intentionally what to do, what your expectations are, things like that. So here are parts of intention. These are things we do on purpose. Theme, goal setting, communication, recognition, expectations, and fun. So intention, the first part is theme. And this has come about, it's just been in the last few years really that it's been more of us directed than it has been athlete directed. For example, some of these like world domination, that was a boys theme one year, because they're just like, we're gonna dominate the world today, Pine Island, tomorrow the world. It's just silly things like that.
Again, they're weird.
But it's great, so embrace it, right? This was my theme the first year I coached for the girls, was the 3 C's: competition, confidence, and compassion, because compassion is literally struggling together, and that's what we're going to do this year, is we're going to struggle together. Phenomenal was one of the boys' themes. Live in the maybe was one of my themes, but be careful with this one, because live in the maybe means you step to the line and you go, maybe I can have my best race. Or you step in the circle and you say, maybe I can throw a PR. But then I had some cynical girls who were like, they're like, what if I step to the line, coach, and I say, maybe I can fall flat on my face? And I was like, okay, well then you're gonna need to flip that negative mindset, you know, so if you wanna use that one, just be careful with that one. And then there's this one. This is Pinesty, like dynasty, okay? We had to instruct our junior high parents about this because they ordered the team shirt that year and they were like, what is pine nasty? And we were like, it is not pine nasty, it's like dynasty. And then they were like, oh. So it's kind of silly things like that.
A lot of times the themes just come organically too, but we'll talk about, you know, focus phrases coming up here, like I think last year didn't we have stand tall? Or,
yeah, yep.
It's always just like a little keyword where when somebody's running or somebody needs just to pick up that you shut out and it kind of clicks. Oh yeah, I can do this. I got this.
It's something for them to focus on to get themselves out of their own heads, basically, especially with the girls. So we started this just last year or the year before, focus phrase, and we put it in our weekly practice plan that this is the focus phrase for this week. And the first one was, it wasn't even find the joy, it was joy in the work. And so this is intentional teaching that happens during our core time, or during some of our dynamic warm-up time, or during our weightlifting time, or just a quick team meeting time, where we actually teach them that, and then we'll send them a follow-up video or something like that. So that's their phrase, was joy in the work. And the boys just embrace all the weirdness for sure. And when they're like doing their marching on the wall, they're like, joy, 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 you know, so it's kind of crazy. Fail forward, it's teaching them about, I said to all the kids, I'm like, I wish you failure in your life. I wish that you fail over and over and over again. Because when you fail, instead of going, I'm terrible, or blaming somebody else, that you actually are like, what did I learn from that? So there's some great videos out there on failing forward. Stand Tall came from former Cowboys coach.
Yeah, Jason.
Former Cowboys coach, right? About how in your life, or in the pocket as a quarterback, you have to stand tall, but really it's in your life, stand tall. And that's what we're about in Pine Island Track and Field, is standing tall in all areas of your life. Start again. If something doesn't go your way, you scratch on a throw, you know, are you like, I'm terrible, I'm never doing this again, I'll probably never get a mark? No, you start again. You go next and start again. So it's intentional teaching, giving them phrases that they can have in their brains so they don't ruminate about something that went wrong. And then I started this 2 years ago. It was like how to combat a negative thought in your head. So you check it, you challenge it, and then you change it. And you repeat that challenged phrase in your head so that you don't continue with that negative bias or negative mindset. And this is my girls after a hard hill workout. Not all of them, but.
1, 2, 3, take off!
So it just gives them something to kind of rally around too. I'm trying to get this off here. Okay, goal setting.
For the guys' side, we set up goals at the beginning of each year because I think you have to see it to go get it. Okay, so when we do that, we generally we give them kind of the parameters of what we're looking for, and this is what we need to try to do. But we leave the room and let them, kind of led by the captains, talk about it amongst themselves and come out with what they want to get out of the season. And this is big for us because we have, I guess, in our gym where we have up on the wall the goals they set, and then after a meet, we'll go through and check off, okay, did we get a PR today? Yep, that's another PR.
So they'll get a marker,
toward
they'll
our
walk in the
200
gym.
PRs by the end of the season.
Yeah, they'll walk in the gym, grab a marker, put a tally mark up. I got a PR yesterday. Okay.
And I think, like I said, it's just a visual, but if you have that visual, then you can see it and you know that, yes, this workout's going to be incredibly tough in a 30-mile-an-hour wind with rain in our face, but we got to get the job done because we have this, and this. We want to continue to be phenomenal. We want to continue to do and go on the road that we're going toward at the end of our season.
I'm going to show you. I'll show you some of these things at the end too, like one word or Google form. Talk about the light up the bus.
I guess so. After meets, you usually get home late, and to try to make it exciting and fun, if someone got a PR, we kind of keep track throughout the meet of that was a PR for him, and then at the end we light up the bus like we lit it up on the track. So we give them a glow bracelet.
You get a glow stick.
And they go on the bus and they got their little bracelets. It looks really cool too. It'd be like all of us having glow sticks and raising them up, and we take pictures, and just because that's a small thing, but they buy into it. They're like, "We're getting our glow sticks." Yes, we'll get the glow sticks. Just get on the bus.
The biggest thing about goal setting is that you have to set aside time in your practice to do it. You can't expect kids to do it on their own because they won't. Whatever you send out, only half of them read it. And so we intentionally set aside time to do that team goal setting and to do that individual goal setting as well. So when we're talking goal setting, here are some things that I linked. I linked this form in there. This was just really simple. What's your word? How does it apply to track and field? And how does it apply to other areas? Really simple for them to do. We did this at the pizza party this year. I've also done a Google form where it asks you things, your overall goal, and then it says technical goals, psychological goal, performance goal, physical training components. How often do you put your full effort in? How often do you warm up? How often do you do things like this? And it's like, do you think about your nutrition? Do you think about your sleep? So it's them actually intentionally thinking about, how do I prepare for all of this stuff?
And like with that one word thing, we would have them write it on the chalkboard and take a picture. If it was like strength, they'd have it on there and they'd be flexing.
Yeah.
And then take a picture of that and put the little individual pictures on like a little poster that they can see. It's a visual of, I can see that, oh yeah, my goal is to this, whatever.
Yeah, and I do this every year too, and I keep these, so when I hand them back out again to the kids and I hand them a new one, sometimes they look at this, by the time they get to a senior and they're like, oh my gosh, I wanted to be a sprinter, I'm a 3,200 meter runner, and so then they kind of look back on that too, and they see, how far have I come? Or they said, I wanted to make sure, that I broke 8 minutes in the mile. Now I can run a 6:18. So it's a good way for them to intentionally, think about those things, and it's good for us to be like, oh, I didn't know you wanted to try the pole vault. Okay, we'll do that. And this is the lesson that would happen before the goal setting, just to kind of get them thinking on the right path, anyways. And I did something with the girls too, where I was like, you want to see where we came from? Here you go. Here's me, right? I mean, Dave, you probably ran in uniforms kind of like that, right? So here's where I came from. Here's my throws coach. Here's my pole vault coach. So it's like, this is, you have to know that we were where you are now. Last year I brought in all my journals that I wrote in high school, and I was like, here's this workout. I thought it was, and I showed the kids that. And then I gave the girls each one of them had a little journal. And I was like, okay, this is yours. You can do it if you want to. I'm never going to read this for you. But here's what I want you to write in here. Date, sleep, hydration, fuel. I don't want to put, what did you eat? I want to say, how did you fuel? And so we're changing that vocabulary with them as well. What's your workout? Reflect on this. Was it hard? Why was it hard? Look at how much you slept last night. Boy, no wonder that 12-400s was hard. You hardly slept. So, and they bought into that. I had those at every practice. They could come and grab it if they wanted to. They could come and write in it. When they were if they were a senior, it was in their senior. It's in their envelope at the end of the season. So. Otherwise, I will continue to give the girls back their same notebooks, and some of them kept them. I do a lot of videos and stuff too, so. Okay, how are we doing?
10 minutes.
Okay. Communication, I'll just say this, it doesn't matter how many platforms you use to put out information, nobody still knows what's going on.
So we're going to scrap all the communication.
I mean, honestly, and I think about, what am I doing that I don't need to do? But I keep doing it anyways because it makes me feel better. So we have our PAC meeting. That's the first communication, parent athlete coach. I put out a weekly newsletter. which has all sorts of links that I have no idea if anybody ever clicks on. We email the athletes their weekly workouts so that they know in advance they can mentally prepare for that. We have a Facebook group, we have a Twitter, we have the school's Facebook, we have daily announcements. And somebody said, one of the other coaches at one point said to me, well, why do you put stuff in the announcements? Nobody reads those. And I said, the staff reads them. Staff reads them, and guess what? They know what our kids are doing then. They'll see them in the hallway and they'll go, hey, nice 800 last night, way to go.
And the parents read
And
them,
the parents
'cause they go
read
home
them,
to parents.
you know, and I push them out there in the public because we want to involve all of our high school community, our staff members too, into our track and field program because it helps them to know what's going on.
But honestly, they'll come up and say, what time's the bus tomorrow? Check the 500
what are our
platforms.
workouts today? And I'll say, I'm not going to tell you because I emailed it to you. And then they'll be like, oh, and then they'll go ask a friend, you know. So we get some of those kids, but there was 1 week last year where I didn't send out the workouts on purpose because I was like, I'm going to see how many people read this. And there were quite a few kids that emailed me that morning and were like, where's the workouts? I want to know what the
You
workouts
definitely have
are.
those
Yeah.
that email Sunday night. Well,
Yeah.
When's the workout coming off?
For our communication with athletes from captains, they put together their own groups, their Snapchat groups, their text groups. The only caution is you still have kids who don't have phones. So you have to make sure that those junior high kids are in the loop as well. And then we only text our captains. We don't text other people because I don't publish my phone number to other people or athletes or parents just because I don't want to always be available. And if somebody texts me, I'm always available. So, and I can show you an example of that newsletter if we have time. Okay, this is probably the biggest part of our intention is recognition for kids. When we go through the meet results after practice, the boys do one clap, right? And after you say somebody's name, and the girls do two. I don't know why. That's just the way it happened. But we recognize that, and sometimes even if kids don't place, we're like, and a PR for Matt Northrop, you know? And we have to practice the clap because some kids can't clap on a rhythm. And then what's the half clap?
Again, you have to be intentional.
What?
If they just miss scoring.
If they just miss scoring, we're like, okay, half clap.
In ninth place with a PR of whatever, and they don't clap.
It's just one of the funny little things that they do. The girls have a little stuffed animal. It's a hedgehog. We named him Howie because Howie means brave. And so the captains at first awarded that hedgehog to somebody who had kind of come through 5 minutes, okay, who had come through something hard in a meet, who had encountered a challenge, who had really struggled to get through something but made it through on the other side. Dropped a baton, picked it up, and finished anyways. So that they get awarded Howie the Hedgehog to demonstrate that they made it through something hard.
Howie is brave.
Or Howard.
It's not Howie Cook. Or...
Yeah, that too, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, talk about our awards and recognition celebration.
Okay. So I hate this. We have kind of the most important part of our presentation at the end, and we're rushing through it. But we really think, and we've heard from all our parents and people.
Well, let me just ask this question: how many of you have been to an awards banquet before, or an awards celebration? Okay?
Of a different sport.
Of a different sport. Okay.
Okay.
How many have been to those banquets or celebrations and they have not recognized everybody on the team?
So
Okay.
like our freshman son in football went to the banquet and they didn't even say anything about the freshmen. They're there
Nothing.
in the back and they didn't even get recognized.
Yeah.
I'm not bashing our football program because it's changing, but with that being said, we think it's so important to recognize every single kid. So we will call up 7th graders. Well, they do an ice cream social. They do a different
They
day.
do their different one.
We'll go with 9 through 12. So we call up the 9th graders. They'll come up and stand, and we will give them their envelope.
Like this.
Everybody who letters, their letter will be in there.
Their lettering certificate. If their participation didn't
And they
letter,
didn't
their
letter?
participation certificate's in there. Their end of season booklet is in there. Except
Any
the-
ribbons
yeah.
or medals that they didn't
The
pick up.
pins that go on their letter, everything's in here. So when everybody gets this, they're the same. Okay? They don't know, oh, you got a lettering certificate and I didn't.
Right.
Okay? So everybody's the same like this.
And then we'll say, what event they did, what their best PR was.
Maybe what our favorite race or favorite story about them
Yep.
was. Why
And-
we think they're a good leader.
and
Why
it's
we
just
really love this
important.
kid.
Because I don't know, and then you get to the seniors, and I even look at this last year's seniors.
I know.
And it's
It's very emotional.
difficult. I can't make it through the first person,
No.
let alone all of them, without just losing it. Because they mean so much for what you've built and where you've come from, and to carry on what they've done throughout that process of going through COVID, and it shows how much you care.
Yeah.
But it's just, you gotta love up on these kids, because they don't get that. And I can point to 3 of those kids right there that probably don't get many hugs, and they get plenty from me after a race when they feel like they can't move on, they feel like they didn't do as well as they thought they should. Just hug them, love up on them, and let them know how much you care about them, because that's the biggest way to get them to overachieve, and let them know you believe in them, and they'll respond.
And maybe this interpersonal stuff isn't your strength. Maybe you're more I don't know.
Data guy.
Maybe you're more data. Maybe you are more reserved, and that's not your jam. If it isn't, get somebody on your staff who is, because we know that we all connect with different kids. There's kids that I really connect with and I really understand that Matt has a really hard time with. There's girls that drive me crazy that will totally, love to talk to him. And so you have to get a variety of people on your coaching staff, whether they're volunteer or paid, who care about kids in different ways. Because that's the biggest thing for us, is the relationship. You have to form that significant adult relationships with kids. It doesn't have to be the same person every time, but you have to do that, because you have to let them know that they matter. And when they're not at practice and they come back the next day and you're like, where were you? Then you noticed that kid was gone. Because then they know that you care about them, that you love them. Like, we tell kids that all the time, right or wrong. We're like, oh, we love you guys. We're so grateful you're here. We can't wait to see you tomorrow. And it's important. We know as parents that we want our own kids to be recognized, just for things that they're not that they're good at, but gosh, your kid, he cheers so well the other throwers. He's such a positive leader, and that's really important for us. To know that somebody else recognizes that in our kids.
And then we give the seniors a piece of the track, and thanks for being a part of the 2002.
No, we don't cut pieces out of our track. There was a mistake on our track, so the company cut out a big swath of track, and we kept it. So we give them that.
If you do have remnants of your track gets resurfaced or whatever, keep a bunch of chunks, and then you can buy little hockey things and put them in there, because that just is another thing that they remember.
Really quickly, we are very demanding on the kids. We are very demanding on language, that's important. We've gone to a lot of other meets where kids are just potty mouth, swear left or right, and we hope that if you guys see Pine Island kids at meets and they're like that you'll tell us, because that is not what we're about. That's not what we want Pine Island Track and Field to be known for. We even had a kid last year who doesn't quite get it yet. He was a freshman last year, and he said, and he was talking to some girls, and I heard it, and he's like, the boys team is just so gay. And I was like, okay, we're going to talk about this. It's on. And I wasn't going to talk about it because I'm not going to have enough influence with that kid. So Matt waited until before we got on the Section True Team bus, and he goes, come here, I want to talk to you. And they're right outside the bus.
You're not getting on the bus. What? No. What did you just say the other day? What? And I had a huge conversation. I said, here's the bottom line. This is our team, and if you want to be part of it, you need to buy into that. It doesn't matter what walk of life people are coming from. Everybody has value, and unless you can figure that out, you can call your mom right now and come pick you up. But unless you can figure that out and change what you are doing, I don't want you here. So
make a choice right now. Make a choice. Do you want to call your mom and have her come pick you up, or do you want to get on the bus and be part of the team?
And
he got on the bus.
He
has not since looked Matt in the eye.
Well, that's right.
In the hallways.
And that's totally fine.
But we've also had to enforce it with our coaches too. We have to intentionally teach some of our coaches, and we have to be like,
you can't have negative body language. They scratch. You can't throw. You you can't. Like, hey, buddy, Devin, come over here. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw that out there.
The other
Devin.
Devin.
Want to do that.
The other Devin.
Yeah.
Cut that.
But language, behavior, body language, and sometimes we'll even tell our captains, we'll be like, okay, you see this 8th grader over there? He needs you to tell him this. So we'll give them the words, and then we're like, now go talk to him. So that it's the captains enforcing that
Sure.
as well. Okay, fun.
Nope, we're done.
Okay, but
Right.
this is just a couple little things here. We're in our parade, our town parade. We just get a float. Here, it's a track team
And then
on a
punch
float.
the golden ticket to state. We have golden tickets that we give them. Hey, we want you. We got a golden
When
ticket.
they've qualified for state,
Just be
I
funny.
I find them right away with a hole puncher, and I give them the ticket, and I'm like, here you go, and they're
And
like,
they punch
what?
the ticket and they're going to state.
And then one kid even came to state one year and was like, I forgot my ticket. And I was like, you don't really need it, it's pretend. And we want to recognize this for you guys as coaches. That people see the glory of your teams or the glory of your work. They don't see everything that went into it. It is blood, sweat, and tears as a 25-plus year track and field coach. There is nothing that makes you feel more inept than trying to coach 18 different events at the same time. And so it's a challenge, but we recognize and understand that work. It is not about you, it's about the experience of the kids, and that's the most important thing that we have. And I think you guys are going to get this presentation, or does it get
They have
posted or
access to
something
it.
like that?
Yeah, as long as Miss Chanhassen hasn't messed it up.
So these are just our guiding principles. Strength in numbers is the last thing we'll leave you with. There are so many kids walking the halls that could be in track and field, and some of them just need to be asked. If they have it's never even come into their brains before, and you're like, hey, what are you doing this spring? Nothing. Okay, join track and field. And they're like, what? I can't run. Anybody can run. Come on, join us. We'll find a spot for you. There's 18 different events. And they're like, really? We're like, yeah.
There's
come
so
on,
many
it's
kids
fun.
that if you just ask and make
If
a
you
little
just
connection,
ask them,
they
they'll come.
will run through the wall for you. So thank you for being coaches and taking the time to donate to the kids that you coach. Best of luck in the upcoming season, and
Yeah.
thanks for spending time with us.
Thanks for the opportunity. Sorry we're talking
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Matt Foley thing, a little too long.
What thing?
The Matt Foley
Do
thing.
people have questions?